Torres, and I'm going to be talking about how COVID-19 affected the US and Mexico. So, COVID as a whole. During October of 2019 and September of 2020, the agricultural exports from the US to Mexico decreased by 5%. And even though it doesn't look like a lot, when you put 5% into numbers, it will give you an equal of $18.1 billion, which is a lot. The way that COVID-19 hit Mexico was that basically everyone lost its job, and so something or a way where the government could help them or to know if they would have recovered from the pandemic was implemented by the World Bank and the UNDP. UNDP stands for United Nations Program, and what they did is that they implemented the second phase of high-frequency telephone surveys, which basically was a survey that, for example, they call you from the phone and they ask you if you have sold your house or if you have sold any cars or if you lost your job, if you are still working, and etc. etc. Something that the survey did show was that even though there was a progression and showed that people were going out of the struggle times, if I can put it in those words, in reality it wasn't that much. The only percentage of people that were going out of the hard situation was the rich people. In the meantime, the middle class and the lower class were the ones who suffered the most. Just for an example, a quick example, my father, he went from having $60 projects earning money to being cut by his company and then starting to having to knock on people's doors to get any job just to maintain our family. So it did hit pretty hard. So why did COVID affect Mexico so hard? Well, since China was Mexico's #1 trader at the moment and the pandemic started in China, at the beginning of the pandemic, Mexico already lost its #1 trader. And as time went on, Mexico then lost its second biggest trader, which was the US. So with this, Mexico already lost its first and second biggest trader at the moment, meaning that the economy was already under the floor. This led into having people that will kidnap others and then ask for money, steal locals, just rob banks, and just do crazy stuff because they needed the money to survive for another day. So COVID in the US, even though I will say that if I have to compare how COVID affected the US and affected Mexico, I would say the US didn't have it that much of a struggle comparing to Mexico. Yes, it is true that in the US, you guys had to use masks and be social distance, and maybe you guys couldn't go out of your home for like a year. But something that it is true was that even though you guys in America were given the opportunity of just work from home and still go out with social distancing, the scenario in Mexico wasn't quite like that. The scenario in Mexico was more of a 2 years of plenty, just stay in your home, you cannot go out, you have no job, and we're not gonna give you the chance to work outside of your home. And something that I really looked up into it was that the government of the United States will actually give some money to the people who lost a lot of money. They'll give them bonuses or just money in general. Whereas in Mexico, that wasn't the case. That didn't happen at all. If you were in a bad situation, if you have to sell your house, if you have to sell your car, if you have no job whatsoever, the government just didn't care at all. They wouldn't give you any money, they wouldn't give you any bonuses. The economy level was not just there to help others. So the consequences of COVID-19. So something that did happen in the US was that, so according to the annual global GDP and the growth of the GDP, it was expected or projected that even though the United States had an already weak 2.9 in 2019, it was projected that it was going to drop by 2.4% for 2020. And I mean, now we know that it really did. It did dropped that 2.4%. And in the Mexican economy, well, Mexican economy just shrank about a 4.5% in 2020. The good news, though, is that the US economy has recovered about 5.9% since 2029, and the Mexican economy has recovered 4.8% since 2019, which is somewhat good. Those are my references, and thank you for your attention.